Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Within the last several days or so, I made a video in which I covered an article that claimed a Ripple competitor was a, quote, XRP killer, end quote. And I'd say I pretty well ripped it to shreds. This was the walled garden that had, it was basically a consortium of 11 banks, and they had what they called their utility settlement coin, which didn't have an open market price. It was just backed by fiat currency, so you can't even buy or sell it, and it works within only a closed network of 11 banks. Never mind that the SWIFT network has over 11,000 financial institutions. They just want to have their own little walled garden, and I'd be willing to bet within that walled garden it's probably pretty good. But you're never going to get the whole world to adopt your little thing, your little walled garden. So open systems are always better. And so now I want to talk about another Ripple competitor, and this is fascinating to me for a ton of reasons. Including the fact that a Ripple employee who has a very strong background on the tech side of things has chimed in on this particular Ripple competitor, and they're called Strike. Now, I actually fairly recently was talking about Strike, and I've got a whole bunch of new additional information, as well as comments from a couple of my fellow XRP YouTubers, Crypto Eddie and Jungle Inc. So, plenty to talk about here. But you know what? XRP is the killer. It is the killer. It is not to be killed. But look, I don't have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who makes YouTube videos as a fun hobby. And here's a headline from you today. Ripple's Director of Developer Relations accuses Strike of copying on-demand liquidity. So Strike is a company that was founded by a guy named Jack Mallers. And I've talked about it on the channel here, and I'm all for competition. I don't mind it one bit. And so based on all the publicly available knowledge, I don't see how this is going to be an actual solution. It looks to me like Jack Mallers and his team at Strike is using the wrong technology to achieve what they're trying to achieve, right? And so let's just jump into the piece. A Lightning Network-powered app, Strike, bringing Bitcoin to El Salvador, was widely viewed as a breakthrough moment for the entire industry, but not everyone is happy. In a recent tweet, Matt Hamilton, Director of Developer Relations at Ripple, claims that Jack Mallers' killer app took notes from the company's on-demand liquidity solution, which was formerly known as XRP. On-demand liquidity allows instantly bridging fiat currencies with the help of the XRP cryptocurrency. And so take a look at this now. There's somebody from the XRP community named Common State who shared this screen grab, which is written by Jack Mallers, who's running Strike here. And so I'm going to run through how this works. I'm going to break this down, and we're going to talk about how XRP works and why the solution that Strike has here is not an XRP killer. In fact, it is XRP that is the killer. And you better be watching for XRP if you think you're going to pull off some sort of serious disruptive move in terms of the way money moves around the planet with Bitcoin and Lightning Network. It is laughable at this point. And so here's what was written by the CEO of Strike. Let's walk through a user story. I want to send $1,000 to a friend of mine in El Salvador. And then he's got 5 bullet points. Bullet point 1. When I initiate the $1,000 payment, excuse me, Strike debits my existing United States dollar balance. Point 2. Strike then automatically converts my $1,000 to Bitcoins ready for use in its infrastructure using its real-time automated risk management and trading infrastructure. And so then bullet point 3, Strike then moves the Bitcoins across the Gulf of Mexico, where it arrives in our Central American infrastructure in less than a second and for no cost. Okay. So the only way that you could have a no-cost transaction. I'm not even convinced then that it would technically be no cost. So I don't know if he's saying that the transaction, there's no cost for the company, or that they're not going to charge the customer for this, in which case your company is the biggest charity on the planet. I don't know what the hell kind of business model that is, since you have employees that you have to pay for. And then there are foreign exchange costs. But if you're talking about sending it from yourself to yourself, then if that's the case, then that is extremely centralized, which seems antithetical to Bitcoin, which is always interesting because the Bitcoin maxis are all about this use case. They hated this use case when XRP was the bridge currency, but now if Bitcoin can solve this problem, all the Bitcoin maximalists on the planet, including Anthony Pompliano, they're all about it. Best thing since sliced bread here. So this isn't clear. They haven't fleshed out the specifics any further, so I can't tell. You're talking about using Lightning Network, but they quoted here again. The Bitcoin arrives across the Gulf of Mexico in our Central American infrastructure in less than a second. So are they sending it from themselves to themselves? Is that the case right there? In which case, all the liquidity is coming from them, and then you're not solving a pre-funding problem. And I don't know, you'd have to have more money than God to like handle replacing all of the pre-funding the world over if you think that's going to happen, because $5 trillion each day moves across borders. So good luck with that, I guess, if that's what you're going for. And if that's not how it works, then how are you doing it for free? Because I'll tell you what, people plopping their Bitcoin down to create payment channels on the Lightning Network, pretty darn sure that it's not going to cost you nothing. So I don't know if that just means you're not charging the customer. This part has not been fleshed out, so admittedly I don't know. But either way, these are clear hurdles that I'm articulating, right? This sounds like a big problem. Then the next bullet point. Strike then takes the Bitcoins and automatically converts them back into USDT, which is synthetic digital dollar known as Tether, and then using its real-time automated risk management and trading infrastructure. So that's another thing that caught my attention. Think about this. They're saying that their Bitcoin, using their infrastructure, goes from country A, then uses Lightning Network, goes to country B, and then it's there in country B, wherever the destination is. And then it's not just sent to the recipient in whatever the local fiat currency is. It's sent to them in Tether. They get Tether. That's what it says right here on the screen. Read it for yourself. It's highlighted in green. Tether is what they get. So then I don't know. So then the end user, then they convert that themselves to fiat currency. And then what's the timeline for that? What's the cost associated with that? Because that's not even addressed here. And so with Ripple's product, it uses there's RippleNet, which is the messaging portion used for payments, and then there's on-demand liquidity, which allows for the settlement of the transaction using XRP, because it functions as a bridge currency. And so with RippleNet, all this is done in the background. You're not sending a recipient Tether. You're not sending them XRP either. XRP is simply used in the plumbing. And then the end user, completely oblivious to how the plumbing works, doesn't know that they got a cheap transaction and it's lightning fast, effectively in real time. They don't know that it happened because of XRP. They just know that that's an awesome service at a low price. And then so they get the end result. They get their fiat currency of choice. That's what works. Nobody's sending them Tether. So that's interesting. But it says right at the bottom, Strike then credits the existing user with the USDT, that's Tether, to their Strike account. So they're not even finishing the transaction. That I did not know until I saw this. That little piece I did not know. That's rather interesting. So they're not even doing a complete transaction. And then they're claiming it's free. Well, how are you paying the bills? How are you paying your customers? Please let me know. I mean, because if you're the biggest charity on the planet, God bless us all. Seriously, that's fantastic if you are, but I don't believe for a second that's actually the case. And so, Ripple employee Matt Hamilton, who has a very strong tech background, he retweeted that and he wrote the following: "Here is a tweet with a screenshot from Strike detailing how a cross-border payment to El Salvador works using Bitcoin." And then he writes, "Now, here's a video of Ashish Burla." It's at AshGoBlue on Twitter, Ashish Burla, from 3 years ago, explaining how XRapid, now called on-demand liquidity, works. And I clicked on this, and I actually had seen the video. I'm not going to pull it up for the purpose of this video. But it's just explaining how a transaction works with what was then known as XRapid, which is basically if you want to send a transaction, if you want to convert a currency from United States dollars to Mexican pesos, effectively all you do is, on behalf of your customer, if your remittance from in the United States, you purchase XRP, and this is all automated, but you purchase XRP on an exchange which until the SEC debacle would have been more likely than not Bitstamp. And then that XRP on Bitstamp is transferred to Bitso in Mexico, which is the Mexican exchange that is partnered with Ripple. And then once that XRP is on Bitso, it's sold on the exchange and converted into Mexican pesos, and that's what the recipient gets. So that's how it works with RippleNet and on-demand liquidity. And so that video highlights that. And so the description here, there are a ton of similarities. The way that Strike is working, it's very similar. It's just like they're not completing the whole transaction, which is really weird to me, and they're using inferior technology, but there you are. And so then Matt Hamilton writes, notice a striking resemblance? Oh yes, Matt, I do. And he then wrote, the main difference being that on-demand liquidity is more decentralized, not relying entirely on Strike infrastructure, and XRP doesn't have the liquidity problems that Lightning has with Bitcoin. And so the reason that he's stating that the Strike infrastructure is more centralized is because specifically with on-demand liquidity, you have partner exchanges which are not a part of Ripple. The liquidity is actually coming from just market participants. And so if it's the case that Strike is providing all the funding in particular, that's way more centralized. Now, to be honest and fair, I'm not completely convinced that it's functionally going to matter, because even though on-demand liquidity arguably, and it is fair, Matt Hamilton's right, even though it's arguably more decentralized, I will say though, if something falls apart with Ripple's technology, the fact that there are separate entities that are not part of Ripple, all of these cryptocurrency exchanges, if RippleNet goes down, I'm not so sure that it's going to matter. So I'm willing to be persuaded. I'm just not convinced that that would be our strongest argument as to why RippleNet and on-demand liquidity make more sense. But I don't pretend to know everything. Absolutely willing to be persuaded on that. So let's take this a step further. So why is this a problem? Well, here's a tweet from my fellow XRP YouTuber, Crypto Eddie. And she wrote the following. Let's be clear. Using the Strike app on the Layer 2 Lightning Network has serious issues. Watch video if you question any of these. Bitcoin Maxis, all three discuss all 7 issues in this video. And so the 7 issues she's citing are right here, which she shared in a tweet. And I want to run through them with you and talk about them so you can see just how bad of an idea it is to try and solve the global, the train wreck that is global payments and settlement utilizing technology that is not sufficient to solve the problem. And so, number 1, and this is written by Crypto Eddie, Strike requires pre-funded channels. Ding, ding, ding. And so this is a major thing, because part of the magic of what's done with on-demand liquidity, it's the fact that you no longer need pre-funding of accounts. People today are already trading XRP on cryptocurrency exchanges all over the world. And so Ripple's genius idea, and it really is genius, this is the secret sauce, is you tap into the liquidity. It's already occurring. People are already selling XRP, so then you just buy it, move it to a cryptocurrency exchange where your customer needs it to be, and then you sell it into the local fiat currency. You don't need pre-funding anymore. It's the first solution mankind has ever devised to eliminate the pre-funding issues. Looks like Strike hasn't pulled that off. Number 2, Strike has huge liquidity issues. And look, I would say that the cryptocurrency asset class on the whole, not particularly liquid, including XRP, and I think that's a fair critique. But if you're talking about Strike specifically, they have huge liquidity issues because they're talking about utilizing Lightning Network, which doesn't even really work, as I'll talk about more in just a second here. But you need payment channels to be open, the pre-funding there, and it's nowhere close to where it would need to be to handle massive flows. Not even close. You can't functionally use it in the world today. And then number 3, Strike is centralized. I already talked about that one, so I'll move on. Number 4, Strike has serious constraints / Lightning loses Bitcoin. And I'm going to come back to that because Crypto Eddie actually did comment on that also. But it is true. Strike has very serious constraints, and you can lose Bitcoin absolutely utilizing Lightning, because today, as I record this, it doesn't work. And if it does in the future, fine, super duper. Even if it did magically work, it doesn't mean that magically out of nowhere that Strike just wins the battle against Ripple. Because again, like there's liquidity of Bitcoin, and it is much greater than the liquidity of XRP. But then you have liquidity within the layer 2 technology. How much Bitcoin is going to be there to facilitate those transactions? So you have to have enough liquidity for Bitcoin and enough liquidity for Lightning Network, and the liquidity of Lightning Network will always be less than that of Bitcoin's, because not all Bitcoin will ever be on the Lightning Network. So serious issues all around here. Number 5, Strike nodes don't dollar cents. And so as far as that, I'm not exactly sure. I was curious when I read through that. I don't know the exact point that she was making on that one. I would have to ask that one. But it did make me think, like, back to the fact that there's this claim that it's free, and in terms of the actual cost associated with all this, I don't know how it does add up. You know, like, the margins should be razor thin, and they are for Ripple too. When you're talking about the amount of money you can actually make on these transactions. Now, at scale, it should be fine anyway, but I'm just saying there's only so much. So I don't know how Strike is going to overcome these hurdles. But anyway, number 6, Strike is not scalable. And number 7, Strike requires both parties to be online. And so actually that is true. But that's because you're using Lightning Network. It's Lightning Network, actually, and so many people don't realize this. Lightning Network requires the sender and the recipient to be online at the same time. And if they're not, you can't conduct a transaction. There are so many hurdles to Lightning Network. It's a complete train wreck. And so that's why I'm sitting here like, well, how are you going to make sure everybody's online when you need it? I mean, you're going to have special key partners, or you're just going to have everything completely centralized, which is antithetical to Bitcoin. I thought you guys hated that. And you're just going to have all the locations. Strike's going to have all the locations necessary the world over, and somehow magically fund this. Like, you need, again, more money than God to make that happen. I don't know how they could possibly pull that off. And then she wrote number 8, 7 strikes and you're out. Yeah, no kidding. And so then my fellow XRP YouTuber Jungle Inc. jumped in and wrote, I'm shocked at the amount of people that think Strike and Lightning Network is going to run the payments of a country's unbanked population. It's a ridiculous stance to take and unnecessary. And then he wrote, comment number 1000 of this variety. And so what he shared was a screen grab in the comment section of one of his YouTube videos. And I'm not sure which video this was from. But somebody in his comment section thinks that Jungle Inc. doesn't know what he's talking about. But as it turns out, the guy in his comment section doesn't really know what he's talking about. It's a guy named Elliot. And this guy named Elliot wrote the following in the comment section of Jungle Inc.'s YouTube video. And he's talking about Jungle Inc., obviously. He wrote, does this guy not know about Strike's involvement in El Salvador and how they're going to use Lightning, not the main chain, for daily transactions? Facepalm. Yeah. That's the problem. Your technology, Bitcoin, and your Layer 2 technology, Lightning Network, not technologically sufficient to solve the problem that Ripple's solving utilizing RippleNet, on-demand liquidity, and XRP. XRP is, from a technical perspective, perfectly positioned to solve this problem. Bitcoin is not. Lightning Network is not. Do you not know that, Elliot? Seems like you do not. And then there is this. Somebody responded to Crypto Eddie's tweet with the 7 strikes there and wrote, and I think it only is successful with small amounts of money. And so this person's referencing Lightning Network, which is what I promised to come back to and talk about. And Crypto Eddie wrote the following. That's number 4, and the reason for small amounts only is due to the pre-funding, and also to mitigate the potential loss. LOSS. When Lightning gets congested, it loses Bitcoin for real. Exactly, which is why you can have test transactions that go through, and I've seen his test transactions, and that's about all you can do with it today. Other transactions that maybe aren't converting from one fiat currency to another, that's fine. You don't need Bitcoin or XRP. You just need a messaging service to complete the payment side of it rather than settlement. That's fine. Maybe Strike's great for that, but you're not solving the settlement problem, and certainly not on a global scale. And so then I responded to that and I wrote, I also love that Strike is advertising their service as 100% free. Are they in business to lose money? What about foreign exchange costs? What about their employees' salaries? What a great charity. So there still are some unanswered questions about that, the guts of Strike. But there's enough right there to just be like, oh my gosh, the guts of it, frankly, it's Lightning Network and Bitcoin. It doesn't work. That we know doesn't work. You can implement that technology however you want in its form today, and it doesn't work. It's just not there. So, is this an XRP killer? No. XRP is the killer. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.